So yeah, I quit my job in 2014, and by 2015, we'd opened the first tap room really here in the Kansas City area. There were some other brew pubs that had restaurants. There were distributing breweries that had tap rooms, but we were the only one that we were the first one, I guess, to open where it was really just focused on the tap room. And so now there's dozens in the Kansas City area. It's just kind of exploded down here.
Hello, everyone. Today, my podcast guest is Eric from Border Brewing Company. Eric, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about your company.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. My name's Eric Martens. I own and operate Border Brewing Company here in Kansas City, Missouri. We are a brewery and tap room that's been in business for a little over 10 years now. Mostly tap room focused, but we're growing the distribution arm of our business. We've kind of been working on that for the last couple of years and really looking to scale it this year.
Awesome. Listen, Eric, this is my first time having somebody who owns a brewery here. It's been mostly tech, media agencies, some fintech. So I'm excited to have you here. So for listeners, those who are not familiar at all with the brewing business, tell us the difference between a brewing company and the tap room that you mentioned.
Yeah, so people hear brewery, they often think about Budweiser, Miller Coors, some of those big guys, and they're producing a much larger scale than we are. We're what would be considered a craft brewery, so we're doing smaller batches, a kind of a wider variety of styles, and the bread and butter for our business is our tap room that's attached to the brewery, where people come in and they're trying those beers on site. So we kind of operate our own bar here in addition to doing a little bit of distribution. But our business model is really focused on getting people into the tap room, and the distribution supports that. Whereas for some of the larger breweries that you may have heard of, they're kind of the inverse of that, where they may have some tap rooms or some things like that that are sort of supplemental for marketing purposes, but their distribution channels is where they make their money.
Gotcha. So both of yours are next to each other. You brew the beer and then you're able to serve it next door in your tap room.
Yeah, it's literally all in the same building actually, and you can like see the tanks from the bar. You're talking to the brewer who's back there working, so it's a kind of you get to get immersed in the total experience here, which I think is really fun.
Awesome. Let's take a step back before we dive into the brewery and the tap room itself. What did you do before that, and what got you into starting your own brewery?
Yeah, so my degree was chemical engineering. I went to school at Kansas State University and graduated with a bachelor's in chemical engineering from there. And while I was at K-State, took a night class on how to brew beer at home, and so just kind of fell in love with the
Nice.
whole thing and was doing it as a hobby for the first six or so years of my engineering career. And then some things just kind of had with my career. I was sort of getting kind of stagnating with the company I was at, not advancing in the way that I was hoping I would. And at the same time, Kansas City really didn't have any craft breweries, at least not like what we're doing at the time. So saw the opportunity there, had been to some other cities like Denver and Portland, Oregon, where I'd seen a thriving craft beer scene and knew that it was probably just coming to Kansas City. And so it was a good time to get in on it. And so yeah, I quit my job in 2014, and by 2015, we'd opened the first tap room really here in the Kansas City area. There were some other brew pubs that had restaurants. There were distributing breweries that had tap rooms, but we were the only one that we were the first one, I guess, to open where it was really just focused on the tap room. And so now there's dozens in the Kansas City area. It's just kind of exploded down here. So feel like we kind of got at the front wave of the gold rush,
Mhm.
if you.
I love it. I love it. You saw an opportunity, you jumped on it, and now 10 years later, you guys are still cranking. That's awesome. So let's say, for example, you said you started this business like a year after leaving your corporate job, correct?
Yes, yeah.
So for when it comes to the funds, how did you manage that? Did you just have like, use your savings? Did you like tell us more about that story?
Yeah, that was an interesting part of the journey. I approached close to a dozen banks, got rejected by all of them here in Kansas City. Nobody had really seen this before, what I was looking to do in Kansas City. It had definitely been done in other cities. And so they just saw a guy that had a job that wanted to quit with a business plan and a smile, and wasn't able to get funded sort of through traditional methods. So found a few friends and family to invest. My wife and I put most of our life savings into it, and then ended up kind of rounding out the financing with about $50,000 in credit card debt. So, not the most recommended way to start a business, but we were get things going, show that we knew what we were doing in that first year, and kind of refinance and make better decisions moving forward, I guess. So, but we just had to do what we had to do to kind of get it started.
Congratulations, man. I think it's it's extremely scary to be able to say, hey, you know what? I have a guaranteed paycheck that's coming on a regular basis. But I'm gonna stop that, and I'm gonna go ahead put myself in more debt and start my own business. So it means that you're taking a big bet on yourself, which is what every successful entrepreneur have had to do in their lifetime. So hats off to you for that. So
Thanks.
so now going back to the brewing company. So 10 years later, you're here. What would you say, like, the when did you start seeing real success? And what would you say your biggest challenges were when you kicked off versus now?
Yeah, so when we got started, we've actually moved locations. We're still in the same neighborhood. In 2020, we moved a block down the street and expanded, bought a building. We were leasing prior to that. And so, we've kind of had different phases, I guess, as we've gone along
Mhm.
this thing. Getting started, man, I was an arrogant engineer, thought I could do it all myself. I didn't need help from people they'd offer, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing, all that stuff. So, um, that was kind of one of the, I guess, areas that I've grown as an entrepreneur and learned, like, not only should you ask for not only can you ask for help when people offer or whatever, but you should be asking and you should be figuring out who can do this thing other than yourself. And that took a while for me to learn, but that's been a big part of our success of where we are now. Um, so I think probably the biggest challenge was just me getting in my own way that first year or so and kind of having to learn
Yeah.
the hard way. Um, and yeah, and then just I think just kind of not when we had like a good year, not letting your foot off the gas. That's something that you know we had a really good year in like 2018. I kind of left my foot off the gas, and 2019 wasn't as good. And I was like, wait, this is supposed to just be on cruise
Mhm.
control. It's just not how it works. So, just kind of always being forward thinking about what's next, even
So
if
so let's focus on this for a little bit.
sure,
Clearly, my next question was going to be about the success. Was the success curve just like this? But to your point, you had a little dip here in 2019. So
yeah,
so tell us more, like what caused that dip in your opinion, and what did you do to get back on track, especially with COVID was around the corner?
yeah, which nobody saw that, but you know, there were lots of factors that kind of caused a small dip, I'd say, in 2019. We had some neighborhood crime stuff kind of going on around that time that was beyond my control. But at the same time, there were some things I definitely could have been done to push things forward. So no, it's not been a linear trajectory at all. It's been down, up, kind of up, down, and all over the place. So you can measure progress by revenue, but I think if you have, if I have a clear vision of where we're heading and we're still making progress towards that goal, sometimes the KPIs or whatever you're looking at, they may not track linearly with how you're feeling the progress is happening. So, um, really 2017 to or 2018, we were trying to work on a deal to expand in our existing space with our landlord that we were leasing from.
Hmm.
Fell through, and so around that time, I said, screw this. Let's find a building we can buy. Let's be our own landlord. That's probably a good long-term move for the business anyway. And we kind of started searching, and then 2020, the building we're in now came up for sale. It went up for sale. I think it was April of 2020. So it was an interesting try to get a commercial real estate transaction done for sure. I went back to the bank, the same stuff, getting rejected by a bunch of them because they're looking at figures like, well, 2018 was good, 2019 wasn't as good, and then 2020 has been really bad. Well, I'm like, yeah, of course it has been. We had to be shut down for 6 weeks. And so just kind of fighting that battle of like getting getting an underwriter at a bank to see past the numbers, which is not really their job or what they're necessarily good at doing. But we eventually found one, got the deal done, closed on the building in October of 2020, and then reopened in 2021, the fall of 2021.
Nice.
So having more space for our tap room means when we're busy, we're busier and making better money. Bigger equipment and an expansion of our production meant that we could actually do distribution for the first time when we moved here, which we really couldn't at the previous location. It was tap room only. We just couldn't make enough beer. So that opened a lot of doors and opportunity and just really marketing exposure for us too, because as it's beer's getting out there, we're making some money on it, but it's not
Hmm.
the most profitable endeavor. But people around the city are seeing our beer, and then when they're in the neighborhood, hopefully we're more top of mind. So that's kind of the bigger goal for that. But so yeah, that it's it's been a 10 and we're still not like out of the woods yet. We still have a ways to go before I would consider this a big success, but we're really on the right track, and I've learned you just gotta kind of keep at it sometimes.
Yeah, could not agree more. Could not agree more. Well, to your point, you're still you're still growing, you're still learning. Obviously, nowadays we keep hearing about AI. I've spoken to many people in the tech world and I've heard their perspective on it. But for you, who's actually, just brewing beer, I'm curious to find out how you've been able to leverage AI to
Hmm.
help you be more productive and also just to grow your business.
Yeah, uh, man, I use ChatGPT. I'm using it daily, literally for something now. When it first was kind of coming out and we were messing with it, we just went the very direct route of like, let's see if it can write a beer recipe for us. We do we do a Thursday every Thursday night. We release a new test batch where we do just a small like 5 gallon batch of beer, and so we've done that for I don't know 100 something consecutive batches now where we're just trying new stuff out. So we're like, let's throw ChatGPT a bone, say we want it to kind of taste like this, have it generate a recipe, and we'll just make it. We'll just make it the way it comes out with. And it was decent. It was pretty good.
Okay.
This was probably a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years. I don't remember how long. It's probably improved a lot since then. Uh, so that was kind of the most like direct application where we're like, this will be
Hmm.
fun, right? Uh, Not necessarily saving us a lot of time. There were things in that recipe that I'm like, we would have done this differently. We would have done that differently. We had a better knowledge of sort of the nuances of making craft beer. So, but it was fun. And then just as I started tinkering with it, just been using it for a lot of practical things for business planning. I mean, things where I think back to writing that first business plan was whatever, 10 pages, 15 pages long, not even that long. And just hours of like wordsmithing this and checking numbers on that. Like, that's something now I would do in 5 minutes and then review and go, yep, that's pretty good. And also knowing what I know about starting a business, you can throw that thing out the window as soon as you start anyway, because it never goes according to plan. So there's stuff like that, and technical documents, regulatory documents
Hmm.
that really useful for where instead of having to start from scratch, it knows a lot about my business now. And so I can say, hey, I'm trying to do something like this. And it already knows kind of stuff about my business. I don't have to tell it every time. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
just cut down time to do that sort of thing dramatically where, I don't have to do it myself or hire somebody. It's just done. So a
Yeah.
lot of that doc is just like a really easy button application, I think.
That's
Um,
awesome. I mean, so listen, I mean, yes, 100% agree with you. I think ChatGPT makes our life much easier when it comes to the operational tasks, right? But obviously, you're kind of in the customer service business because people come to your tap room. Good service will make them come back. Obviously, good product and good service. So the combination of the two of them will make them come back. Have you use ChatGPT when it comes to selecting your staff? Because obviously you want to be able to hire the best possible customer service representatives you can in order to keep these customers coming. So have you been able to use any AI whatsoever in that space?
I don't think we've really it for that, aside from just kind of the nuts and bolts of writing job descriptions or
Okay.
whatever. hiring. We've kind of more just gone off of we go off a gut feel on that kind of stuff still, honestly, a lot because um, I've been doing this for a while. We do pride ourselves in top customer service. We don't care if you have a bunch of craft beer knowledge. It's more important that you're able to connect with people. And
Hmm.
so far from what I've seen from AI, that's a difficult thing to capture, So, and it's part of what I think makes our tap room, uh, I won't say unique, but unique from AI or sort of this digital movement is that people I think still yearn to come and have physical, personal connection with other people, and that's something that we're providing. So, uh, not to say that there won't be some tools that could be used for us in the future, but I haven't seen something that's had utility for us yet in that area.
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean, listen, I've been reading a few things lately, which is why I asked. When it comes to headhunting and that part of like of the business, like getting the right talent, especially in the tech industry, there are a few tools
Sure.
that when it comes to analyzing resumes, etc. But I think so. That being said, then what's the biggest challenge that you see, like that people like yourself see when running a brewery? Like, what's the a challenge that if you could get rid of it tomorrow, it would make your life much, much better.
That's a great question. I think like I said, with the tap room still sort of being the focus, I'll talk about, I guess, that side.
Hmm.
Uh, I just call it getting butts in seats. Like that's the challenge, right? So,
Yeah.
how do we get people in the door, which is marketing, in a neighborhood where everybody else is trying to do the same thing? How do we, if we're spending money on marketing or whatever the resources and efforts are on marketing, how do we know if it's working, which
Yeah.
is a big question where 50 years ago you took out a TV ad. Of course, there's really no way to measure it, but I think what I'd be interested in seeing AI start to crack the code on is, all right, I spent a few $1,000 on ads last month, and I can kind of see if people clicked, but will I be able to see who came in, who my best customers are, what worked, what didn't,
Hmm.
with shot analysis from AI because for us, it's you sometimes just like feel like you're throwing money at a black hole with marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see if it could kind of close the loop on the analytical side of that. Of course, I love Peppers as an engineer, but that's why
Yeah.
marketing frustrating to me because it's like, how do we know what's working? And I want to see some numbers.
100%, 100%. And I mean, so what are you doing right now for marketing?
We've been kind of focusing. So, for the tap room, hyperlocal stuff, an email list that we develop with people that come in, those are really
Hmm.
good, likely to come back. So email marketing is a big piece. Social media marketing, is I think something that isn't really important for us. And then I say social media marketing, not social media advertising. And that's something I see a lot of other businesses like ours do, where it's like, hey, come buy our product, please. And that doesn't work, right? Like you have to
Yep. Yep.
some kind of value, some kind of entertainment, whether it's a silly trend or something educational. And so we kind of pivoted a couple years ago to doing that. And again, like I can't put an ROI on it, but what I can say is that like people come up to me like, I've been seeing your videos, they're hilarious, or I love that one you did about how to brew beer or whatever it is, right? So if that's happening, then we're getting noticed, and that's what marketing is about, right? So we kind of have that approach to social media marketing that's worked well for us and kind of shown our personality to the community and people around Kansas City. Um, and that's kind of been the main focus. And then we're
Gotcha.
in the Crossroads Arts District where there's lots of other businesses, and so doing collaborations with other area businesses and stuff to kind of get that cross pollination is useful as well.
No, 100%. I think, just like you with my e-commerce brand, it's always interesting to know how much of an impact you're really having with the dollars you're spending. And I think now there are a few ways now that it is getting better. I don't think it's where it needs to be at yet, but it's getting better in terms of like, you being able to draw the whole customer funnel and see them from like, when they've been targeted to them walking into your doors. So, I mean, right now, we're not gonna we'll talk more about this, you and I. But I'll see what like what your thoughts are on these. But I think that's the beauty of marketing. It's somehow it works because people are spending millions when it comes to Super Bowl ads, for example, right?
Yep. Yep.
It's like how do you know it's going to work? But clearly they're doing it, and if they've been
Right.
doing it, it's working.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'd be interested to hear more about those tools because that's something that I'd be real interested to kind of track and see what's out there. I'm not real familiar with that kind of stuff, and I do think there's going to be people you hear about it, like people are going to lose jobs. There's going to be all these industries disrupted, but I do see marketing as something that could be very disrupted with being able to analyze a lot of the data that's out there with that kind of stuff quickly and in a uh, targeted way. I guess it's useful to me,
Yeah,
right? Gives me a report. This is working. This is not. Here's why. Awesome. I can double down on this one and dump that one. Move on. Decision making easier.
exactly. I mean, ROI is everything, and I think we want to. The more this is why, for example, a lot of people, a lot of e-commerce, a lot of brands, they love Amazon because you see exactly what campaign is working, what campaign is not with their pay-per-click advertisement, and you can adjust the amount of money allocated to each campaign, all that good stuff. Unfortunately, when it comes to just a brewery or a retail store, there isn't necessarily as much of a direct way of doing so, but there are little things that can be done here and
Yeah.
there. So, I mean, to wrap up here, Eric, what's next for you guys? It's been 10 years. Clearly, you have expanded. You had a bigger place. I assume that you brought that debt down significantly from your early days. So, I'm excited for you. So tell us a little bit about
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we brought it down and then we put it back up to buy a commercial building
that.
on the property, so that's nice. Yeah, so we kind of took the first couple years to sort of get established in this spot. We're self-distributing right now, so we've got a delivery van and we just kind of go around mostly the neighborhood, but some places in Kansas City in a pretty tight distribution radius. And so we've really been hitting that hard, I'd say, the last year, and we're looking to grow from that to KC Metro wide. And so we're in talks with wholesalers that can help us do that and scale that. And so that's kind of the next step for us. Which again, we'll probably make a little more revenue going through that, but just being like known as a top brewery in Kansas City is sort of the goal there. So when people are around downtown, they want to come visit us because they see us as that.
Awesome. I mean, listen, this sounds like a fun business. I think many of us enjoy beer, including myself. So if I'm ever in Kansas City, even though I'm the furthest thing from a Chiefs fan, I'm a Bills fan, and I don't like you guys these days.
Fair
But
enough. We'll accept you anyway. Come by, I'll buy you a beer. How about that?
yes, yes, I will take this free beer for all these championship defeats, that I've that
Maybe
I've that you guys given to us.
championship game you guys have lost to us. How about that?
Wow, look at that. You know what? I
That's
think this conversation is done, my friend.
hard time.
No, but thanks, Eric. Listen, it was a pleasure having you here, and then I'm looking forward to catching up soon and seeing where you guys are at.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on, and I'd love to buy you that beer if you can. If you
Awesome. Thank you, man.